Hi, everyone. It's Ashley Gronewald with Hunter Row Real Estate, and I have Nancy Haworth joining us again to talk to us about organizing. And she has a company called On Task Organizing. And so I hope that if you haven't listened to some of her previous episodes with me, go back and listen because they've been so good and I've gotten some great takeaways. So thank you, Nancy, for joining me again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So today we're talking about organizing children's clothing and closets, which I think there is not a mom out there that couldn't benefit from this topic. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And I always do come away with some little nugget that I can implement. So I can't wait to hear what that'll be today. So let's just jump in because I know we've got a lot of content and a lot of eager listeners. So my first question for you, Nancy, is what are some common things that you see that make kids' closets disorganized or crazy?
All right. Well, a few things. One thing is things that are not clothing or shoes being stored in the closet. It can be anything from keepsakes, mementos, school artwork, old baby toys, outgrown clothes, just an excess of things that the child is not using right now, or things that really don't belong in a clothing closet because they're not clothes. Those are the main items that seem to be adding to the clutter.
That's so interesting because when I think about my kids' closets, there are things there that aren't necessarily what you would think to be in a typical clothing closet. So I guess maybe we'll get into this, but that is a question I have later for you. Like, well, what do you do with that extra stuff that we've put in there? I think of like trophies from swim team, or maybe just some items that aren't clothing specific, but it's like, where does that go? Do you want to answer that now or do you want to wait?
We can talk about that a little later. Yes,
Okay.
It should. I mean, again, if you have the space, it could go on the upper area of the closet, top shelf or something. But for the most part, finding somewhere else in the house to store those things gives your child the room for their clothes instead in that space.
Awesome. So what are some common things that you see that cause disorganization specifically with clothing then?
The number one thing I see that causes disorganization with clothing is not having a system for laundry. Like if there's not a hamper, if there's not a regular schedule as for when laundry gets washed, dried, and put away, that seems to be the main area of concern with clothing. It's just nobody knows where to put the dirty clothes or has a system for how and when to put it away. And even with young children, they can have some kind of a system for that. So just like overflow of clothing and no organization with that. When it comes to children's clothes, there's also the obvious fact that they outgrow their clothing on a regular basis. And so a lot of things that no longer fit still hanging around in areas where they shouldn't be.
Yes. And I'm sure you're going to answer this as well, but I'm just thinking for our kind of laundry system, we do have a basket. It's really a plastic tub with handles is what it is that I got at a thrift store. And this is the third laundry basket, but it's been my favorite so far for a couple reasons. One, I had the kind that just kind of dilapidate and it doesn't hold anything. Yeah, it just collapses. So that drove me crazy because I'd have to constantly pick it up and, kind of fluff it up. So that didn't work very well. And then I had a taller, skinnier one that worked. It fit in the closet perfectly, but it was really deep. So laundry could go for a while before I was like, oh, the basket's full. So this I've liked because it's shorter to the ground. Ellie can pick it up and take it out to bring it to the laundry room if I ask her to do that. And it doesn't get as full before I'm like, it's time to do laundry, which works for us. So it doesn't become an overwhelming task. So those are some thoughts about how we do laundry and specifically related to having that hamper in the closet.
Yes. And that's really, when you think about your children's clothing, you don't have to put the laundry basket or hamper inside the closet. It could be outside next to it. It could be in a bathroom. Again, it depends on where the child changes clothes, but it does have to have a spot. And size is important. If you get a really big one and you're expecting your children to lift it and load it to the laundry room, maybe they can't lift it. Maybe you don't want to collect 3 weeks worth of laundry. You only want to do, a week or so at a time. So a smaller container does help to keep that flowing. And you can always have a couple in different areas, but definitely having a plan and choosing a laundry basket or hamper that your child likes. That's really important. If they're helping with the chores. It could be a color they like, a fabric or a plastic style or color they enjoy, or it could have a character on it, whatever it may be, something, that they will use. It could even just be a fabric bin. It doesn't have to be specifically for a laundry basket. Yes.
It's so funny because I've moved, for me, systems come about from figuring out systems that don't work. So it's like this laundry basket has moved around my daughter's room. And it's funny because she kind of gets used to it being in this one spot. And so I move it to a new place and her clothes are still going in that spot where the last time, she's like, that's where it was for a really long time. For me, I didn't like having it out in the room because it was eye clutter to me.
Right.
And so she does have a big enough closet that it fits in there. And I found one that fits. So that was something that helped alleviate kind of the visual chaos of when walking into her room, seeing, even if her clothes are slightly hanging over the edge, it's like that's in the closet versus out in the room.
Right. Yes.
So what are some closet hacks specifically for kids' closets? Because I think that's what we're all wanting to know. You seem to have really good hacks.
Yes. Well, I think I had mentioned this when we were talking about playroom organization before, but when you're organizing a space for your kids, get down to their height. So depending on how tall they are, crouch down, get down on your knees, look around and see what can they see, what can they reach. That's what you want to start with when you're thinking about setting up a closet for kids. That being said, most children cannot reach the very top rod if you're hanging things up on a high rod. So you may want to either add a lower hanging rod that basically comes down and then there's a lower rod on the bottom and you can put their regular use clothing down there. Or you might just want to change it so you have open cubbies or shelves, or even putting a dresser or drawer units down low where your child can reach them. Any system that comes in place that your child can reach at their height. And if you still don't have much space, you could have a very safe step stool somewhere nearby if they're at the age where they can safely climb to reach the higher rod. But that's really the big hack, is think about their height. Think about what they can reach with their little arms. And again, if you're the person who's putting it all away and helping them get dressed, if they're very young, that's one thing. But once they get to that age where they're controlling the space themselves, really consider what they can reach. So things that hang down low, the extra hanging rod. There are also fabric organizers that you can hang on the top rod that come all the way down almost to the floor, where you can put different pieces of clothing in there. You can use the sides of doors. That's really helpful too. Over the door shoe hangers, or over the door, they call them wall racks, but they can connect to a doorway. Again, anything that they can reach and easily use.
Yeah, I think that's something that, again, I think we're going to talk about just creating independence in children, because I don't want to be dressing them for the rest of their life. I want them to learn that skill and take pride in what they're choosing to wear and all those things. So like the dressers, I've moved them as, Ellie's been able to start doing these things, moved her items to the lower drawer, where that's not as convenient for me, but it's convenient for her. So the top, drawer would be the one I'm most easily able to access, but that's harder for her to see in. So that's been really helpful to move it all down to the bottom two drawers. And then the bottom rod, we have two rods, one that is her height and one that's mine. The clothes that are, either the next season, that is the next size up, I put on the higher, or if it's the fall clothing and it's summer, put it up there to just say that you don't need to worry about it. We'll wear that later in school time. These are the clothes down here in the bottom that you can reach that are for your specific season we're in, or the size that you're in. And that's worked really well for us to be able to, her to independently dress herself, pick out her clothes. She's not as great or wanting to put the hanger, the clothes back on the hanger and hang it up, but I'm trying to instill that in her. But I think, like you said, getting on their level to see life from their vantage point helps a ton.
Yes, and exactly what you said, that's what I suggest people do is, the clothes on the lower rod, the right size, the right season for your child to use. And then the upper rod can be things that they haven't grown into yet, or off season, or formal wear that they don't use every day. So that's great.
See, I really should have been an organizer. Like I knew I missed my calling. Like this is no, I really do love it. It's so fun. And I do think, even though my family would say I'm a little strict about this stuff, it does create some order. And I've even heard my husband say the words like, I appreciate what you do to keep order. And I think I heard from you when we did like the toys, the things that I put at their eye level to toys wise that they can get to and access, they play with those things the most versus the things that they don't see. They're so far put away that they don't know they exist anymore. So I think all of these types of strategies to help our kids be independent and self-reliant are really great skills for them, not only in our home, but once they're out of our nest too.
Yes.
So how do you specifically organize drawers? Maybe I was talking about we've kind of talked about lower level drawers for their easy access. How do you specifically organize them? Socks, underwear, shorts? What do you do?
Yes, and it always depends on the dresser or the drawer you're using, but basically organize them by category. So again, pajamas in one, t-shirts in another, socks, underwear in another, etc. So that's the first thing. If your children are being independent with their clothing and using the drawers, if you have off-season or clothing that is too big for them right now, put those in the top drawers that they can't reach. But with organizing the drawers, it really depends on the size. It's nice to have one drawer per category, but if you don't have that, you can put drawer dividers in the drawers. Again, they can just be like a straight piece of plastic or wood to divide them into 2 or 3 sections, or you can put them into small, like very shallow boxes, kind of like a shoe box, but I suggest there are different material, like basket or fabric or acrylic, the way you can keep all the socks in one little box or keep all the underwear in one area. So separate by type, by what they use most frequently. Again, maybe your children don't wear, formal wear every day. You can put that in the drawers out of the way, but really it's separating it by type. As for folding, people always ask me, what's the best way to fold clothes? It's your choice. See what works for you, what works for your child. You can certainly roll things, and rolling smaller things usually works well, so you can see the color or the pattern on each item. You can fold them. You can fold them and stack them on top of one another. Sometimes you won't see the bottom at that point, or you can fold them in like a file accordion style, so you see the front of each item. It's good for things like t-shirts and pants. So yeah, separate them, decide what works for you and your family. Have them try it out if they want to roll, fold, file, and separate with a few organizing tools if you need them. The main thing I see in drawers, actually 2 things I see. Drawers that are either old or too hard to open, they get stuck. Maybe they need to be repaired, a handle comes off. If it's hard for you to open, it's got to be even harder for your child to open. So make sure that they're clearly opening and closing. And then drawers that are overstuffed, you shouldn't fill any dresser drawer more than 80%, 75, 80%. Once you start reaching the very top and stuff rolling out of the drawers and you can't close them, they get stuck in the back. You can't move things around. So decluttering the drawers is usually on a regular basis is a good idea, so you can actually see what's inside.
Those are such great tips. And I know for some people that's not something they would actually enjoy. I love it. Like I'm like, Ellie, let's go through your drawers and find some shirts that are too small now that you want to pass along, or let's go see if we need any new shorts, pants. Like let's just take an inventory. That's super fun for me. I might have just made myself a serious dork, but I love doing that. And it just keeps it so much more fresh and easy for them to see. And then I love it when my kids are wearing all the things I bought them versus just the thing that's on top, because that's the easiest to access. Now you said whatever works best for you, folding, filing, rolling. I'm just curious, what do you do in your house?
I do folding. That's what I prefer, my family prefers. But again, everybody's different.
Right.
It takes more time to tightly roll and then unroll and set it up. But
right. I guess in my mind, I would think whichever one the kid likes to do or is willing to do too, because I'm really trying to get Ellie to a place where she's helping me put away. So if she gets excited, I've never tried the rolling thing with her, but if she got excited about that and wanted to do that, I'd be all for trying that. I mean, I'm a folder. The filing thing, it seems so good in theory, but if you don't have enough to fill the file cabinet, it kind of is like bleh.
If you don't have the right size container or drawer, it can easily fall over. And that's where coming in, doing your laundry on a regular basis and keeping the same number in the drawer over and over again makes it easier. So have your kids try them out, see what works for them.
And then with closets, you've already spoken to this a good bit. The lower level would be in season and the appropriate size. And then the upper level would be non-daily wear, out of season, or the next size up. Any other specifics to how you would organize the clothing in the closet?
The other things when setting up a closet, again, some people only put their clothes in the closet. They don't even have a dresser. So it depends on what you're working with. But again, categorizing things, adding some kind of label. If there are drawers or shelves in the closet, adding either just a simple label with the word, or you could put a picture of the type of clothing. You put a picture of a sock or whatever it is on the bin that has that. So labeling helps for kids. And then when you are organizing the actual things hanging on a closet rod, you can get closet rod dividers. They're just like the discs that you would see in a retail store, and you can put a sticker on that, say, size 5 or whatever, you can put the sizes on there and divide it by size, or you can divide it by type. So maybe like when my daughter was very young, she was in ballet. So we had one little section was all the ballet stuff, and you could have all the sporting, different activities, school clothes, church clothes, etc. And you can label it so it's easy for your children to know where to put it away, for you or your spouse or anybody else who's putting your clothes away or trying to find can look. So labels help, especially in children's closets. And the other thing is shoes. You have to think about shoes as well. A lot of times shoes will just end up all over the floor. So getting some kind of shoe shelf or shoe organizer in one area, again, down low for the most part, if it's regular shoes they wear. Usually their most frequently used shoes, I suggest, get stored at a drop zone area by the front door, the back door, whatever door they're using most often. But of course, there will still be some overflow shoes that can be stored in the closet. So low-lying shelving usually works best, or clear shoe boxes or something with labels so your children know what's inside. And then it's just think of the ease of use of anything you put in your child's closet. Can they lift it? Can they move it? Can they reach it? Whether it's fabric bins or any type of basket or container, what they can use.
And one thing I was going to say, just with the rod dividers for the clothing, you can buy those, like you said, and there a lot of times have them for like newborn clothing, 6 months, 9 months, and you can get them. And then I decided I want to just make my own. So I just got a print of cardstock that I liked. I made circles and then cut them out and just, wrote on them what I wanted. So that's something you could do if you don't want to go buy them, and just see if it works for you. Because if it doesn't work, then you didn't spend any money with a fun craft day.
And they do sell them blank with labels that you can make on your own. So
either way, that's something for sure you could do. And then the other thing I find is I do categorize Ellie's clothing by the type of clothing. So short sleeve dresses, long sleeve dresses, that type of thing throughout. But one thing I've tried to do sometimes is just keep them within that category, but mix them up, because sometimes she'll just reach for the first one. And so she's constantly wearing the same dress.
Oh, yes.
So if I move it around, like, you haven't seen this one for a while, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll wear that one. And again, I get joy out of seeing her wear, all the clothes that we've invested in together. So that's something too, just to keep it where it's supposed to go, but just mix them up a little bit the next time you hang them. So it's not always the one she keeps wearing is at the front.
Exactly. You can do the same thing in drawers. So the stuff that's in front or on top isn't always the first thing they wear. Yes.
Right. Like when you do the laundry, put it underneath versus keep putting it on top, and the things underneath ever get worn. So moving on from there, how do you foster this independence for kids around their clothing? I mean, we've talked about putting it in eyesight for them, putting it in a place that they can easily access it. Is there anything else that you would do that would help encourage them to be independent, to dress themselves, put away their laundry? Any other things like that?
Well, again, it depends on the age. The more involved they are in picking out the clothes, like if they can look online, if you shop online, or go to the store and help pick out the clothing, they'll be more likely to wear their favorites. I would say if they have some say in what they're getting for clothes, that does help. Setting up some kind of routine, or even making it a game for younger children, say at the end of every day or the end of the week, you take all the laundry, put it away, or bring it to the laundry room, making it fun, playing music as you put clothes away, singing songs, anything that you can do to make it a fun, enjoyable chore or event, game rather than a chore helps. And again, I mentioned before, if they're the ones to pick out their hamper or laundry basket, they'll be more likely to use it. And also, again, depending on their age, if they get involved in designing, what holds their clothing, they pick out their dresser or their fabric bins or shelving or color hangers they like, all these different things you can involve them in. Just if they have a say in it, they'll be more likely to use it or do it. So anything like that. But setting up routines is really important. Just a regular routine, putting things away and getting things out.
That's awesome. I love those ideas. I think those are fantastic because, again, we want our kids to leave the nest, not stay in our nest where we're always catering to what they need. So helping them decide. And one thing I was going to say too, Nancy, that I do is like if Ellie comes to me and says, I don't like the way this dress feels, I don't want to wear it, I don't put it back in the closet. It's like, move it on. If that's to Goodwill, if that's to her cousin or to baby Brooklyn when she grows up, but declutter when they say this doesn't work for me. So that's another thought to help naturally declutter as your kids are wearing their clothing.
It is helpful to have some kind of donate box or bin somewhere in their bedroom or somewhere in your house, so that if they don't like something, they've outgrown it, you can just immediately throw it into that donate box rather than have to go through it all at once and one time. So yeah, definitely. When I help adults organize their closets, that's one of the questions I ask. How does this feel on you? Do you like it? Do you see yourself wearing it again? And if your child says the same thing about a dress or something, and then maybe it's time to just let that go.
That's awesome. And another thing, like as we're getting into this, how do we kind of filter out the clothing in our kids' closets as they size out of them? Do you have a system that you recommend your clients of, okay, now we're changing from summer to winter clothing, or there's still the same clothing from last year that they can't fit into? What do you recommend?
Yes. Well, my first suggestion is to declutter at least twice a year, maybe 4 times if you have the energy and the motivation. But once in the summertime, again, like when school's out and there's a break, and then once in the wintertime, like usually over winter break, holiday break, the kids will be home for a little while. You should have some, and it's different seasons. So going through everything at least once every 6 months helps. And then as you go through, again, your kids may have to try some things on, but you probably know which sizes fit. Anything that does not fit, decide what you want to do with it. And that may, again, if you have younger children, you may just need to keep those for hand-me-downs, and that's fine. But the main thing is put it into a container that's clearly labeled, size 5 boy clothes or whatever it is, so that you know what's in there. And then storing things in lidded containers, preferably, like plastic, not cardboard, and storing them in a climate-controlled space. So often I will have people store their outgrown clothes either in underbed boxes or in bins on the very top shelf of a closet. It can be in the children's closet if your child's not using that top shelf, or it could be in a guest room closet, bonus room closet, somewhere else. My biggest tip is do not store these in a garage or attic or basement, and it will ruin the fabric and the clothing. But the main thing is go through it once every 6 months. When you do put things into containers, again, you just make sure you write what sizes are in those containers, determine what you're doing with them. If you're not going to save them for other children or in your family, get them out as soon as possible. Again, have a regular basis where you give them to your neighbors or donate them to charity or sell them, whatever you may do. Get those out. And that's another, I often see people with lots and lots of clothes that they're going to sell at a consignment sale, and they keep missing the consignment sale or the yard sale. So, face reality with yourself as to if you're actually going to go through all of that work, or if it's easier to just donate it or sell it all at once at a thrift shop or something.
Exactly. The system that's worked well for us is we get a big, clear plastic tub that we put in the closet. Again, this wouldn't work if you don't have the size for it, but it goes at the bottom of all of my 3 kids' closets. And if they wear something, I'm like, oh, that's the last time they're going to be wearing that. I tell them when we wash this, we're putting it right in the bin. And so anything I say that's too small, as soon as they say that, it goes in the bin. Mm-hmm. So I still can do that 2 or 4 times a year where you're filtering through, but I'm doing it on the spot when
Right.
I notice that it doesn't fit anymore. Or if I see something that they're not wearing and I ask, why are you wearing this? I don't like the way it feels, or it's too tight or too small or whatever, then, goes right into that clear bin. And then once that clear bin fills up, it goes into permanent storage
Right.
for, the next child, if we have one of that gender type of thing. So that's
Right.
worked really well for us.
Great. Yeah,
So it's not as this big chore that I have
a big event. Yeah, and that's a great way to do it. Like I said, you just have a donate box in each closet. That helps. Just make sure when you do that, you label the bin when you fill it up as to what sizes are in there, so you can find it next time.
Exactly. It makes it super easy. And they're all clear, so I can look too from a glance, but I do have them labeled, but that helps as well so that you can easily access it. Is there any other tools that you would use when organizing a closet, systems or specific baskets or anything that you say I've seen work well for kids?
Yes, one thing that works well, I mentioned it earlier, is those hanging fabric bins that have like little fabric shelves in them. They usually are 5 or 10 shelves long. They just Velcro to the top of your closet rod, and then they hang down toward the floor. What you can use those for is to separate things by days of the week. So if you don't have time every morning, you could plan what your child's going to wear at least Monday through Friday, and you could have a Monday shelf, a Tuesday shelf, a Wednesday shelf. So setting it up like that in advance really helps to streamline the mornings and get things out the door. And same thing with, like, if they have special activities, you could put all their sporting goods in one shelf and like that. So if your child really likes to plan, or you like to plan for them as to what they're wearing for the whole week, you can basically, instead of having things say t-shirts, pants, etc., they can say Monday through Tuesday, Wednesday, and at least there's clean clothes that they can an entire outfit is there. Pull everything out, and you don't have to worry about searching for a sock or anything.
And one thing too, like you're saying, if mornings are rushed or it becomes a stressful event at your house, laying out the clothes the night before does eliminate a couple of choices that the kid has to make,
yes,
or you have to make. So if that works, that could be part of the bedtime routine. Let's brush our teeth. Let's pick out what you're wearing tomorrow and pray and go to bed type of thing. So that's something that could help eliminate some stress.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Picking, I always suggest people ask me, how do I make my mornings better? Say, plan the night before, prepare the night before. So if you know what your child needs to get out the door in the morning, especially clothing wise, just put it all in one spot so they can easily reach it.
And I know we're talking about clothes, shoes, accessories are closet is a home for those things. What is your thought towards these toys that have migrated into there, or these mementos or baby clothes or items that aren't really necessary to be in there? Where would you recommend those going?
Right. Well, again, if there is space, usually children don't use the very top shelf of the closet. That's a good place to put those things, but definitely contain them, label them, declutter on a regular basis. But I'd suggest putting them elsewhere in the house. Again, these are more, especially the memento type things are more for the parents than the kids, it seems. So again, maybe put it in, again, a guest closet, a bonus room closet, under a bed somewhere, a cabinet in a living room or something. You probably have other places. It doesn't need to be right there in the closet. For toys, this really depends on the house itself. It is usually best if the bedroom is just clothing, shoes, and for sleep. But if your child does play in the bedroom, then another, again, shelf or cabinet elsewhere that you can just lock it all away or hide it all away, toy box, etc., in that room. Or if you have a playroom or a place where your child does usually play, move it down there, set up some kind of system in that spot rather than having it be in their bedroom, because the toys can really take over and then they can't find the clothes.
Right. And that's why I think I've tried as best I could to make it clothing, accessories, and shoes for the closet. The top shelf, like the dehumidifier or a sleeping bag, the things that we're not using on a regular basis, but I still want access to them, has been the general thing. But gosh, those mementos or those things that they might want to hold on to, but they're not really a toy, those are so tricky. And like you said, they're maybe more for the parent than they are the kid. So finding a better place for them is probably helpful. Well, thank you so much for all of your great advice. I always love talking to you. And if people do want to get in touch with you about having you come and help them get their spaces organized, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way is to visit my website, ontaskorganizing.com. When you go over there, you can either call me or email me or fill out a form on my website. I offer a free 30-minute consultation to anybody who's interested in learning more about getting organized. I offer organization in person in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, but I also offer it virtually everywhere else. During the pandemic, I've been doing a lot of virtual organizing where we just connect online, and you can walk me through your home that way. So feel free to visit my website and you give me a call or send me an email.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Nancy. This is so helpful, and I'm sure we'll have you on again, but I'll see everybody next week. Thank you.